So today we're going to talk about a frog, but not just any frog. This is the absolutely unbelievable story of how a simple cartoon character got swept up in a global geopolitical storm, becoming one of the most powerful and contradictory symbols of our time.
To really wrap our heads around this journey, we're going to break it down into 5 parts, almost like movements in a symphony. This is our plan, so let's just dive right in.
All right, first up, let's set the stage and get right to the central problem, the real paradox at the heart of our story.
Yeah, this is the big one. How on earth did this happen? It's a question that honestly tells you way more about us and the wild, chaotic internet we've all built than it does about the actual frog.
And I mean, just look at this. It's wild. In the West, he's so toxic he's been officially labeled a hate symbol. But then you jump halfway across the world and he's being waved on signs at pro-democracy protests. So how can one symbol mean two completely opposite things at the exact same time?
You know, one writer put it perfectly. They said this whole thing is like a hurricane so powerful that it actually crosses the equator and starts spinning the other way, which is something that's basically impossible in physics. That's the kind of crazy world-bending energy we're dealing with here. A perfect digital storm. And to make sense of this storm, we're going to treat this whole explainer like a program symphony, where each section tells another piece of the bigger story. And every good symphony needs a recurring theme. In music, there's this term, an idée fixe. It's a central idea that keeps coming back. For us, that's Pepe the Frog. He's our constant. But you're about to see how this one theme, this one little frog, gets twisted and transformed in ways you just wouldn't believe. Okay, let's get into movement 1. We're going to rewind all the way back to the very beginning, to a much, much simpler and totally apolitical time. And here he is. This is ground zero. Pepe, in his original, totally innocent form. He started in a comic called Boys Club by an artist named Matt Fury, way back in 2005, and his whole deal? Just a chill frog with his now famous catchphrase, "Feels good, Nan." That's it. Simple. No politics, no hate. His climb to internet fame was pretty gradual. The Feels Good Man panels started popping up as a reaction meme around 2008. Then, for some reason, it got big on bodybuilding forums. But the real explosion happened around 2012, when places like 4chan and Reddit adopted him. That's when he really became a mascot for internet subculture, getting remixed into endless variations. And you gotta understand, 4chan especially was the perfect petri dish for a meme like Pepe. It's nothing like Reddit, where you have a profile and a history. 4chan is the Wild West, total anonymity. Threads vanish into thin air. There's no author, no identity. And that kind of environment meant anyone could do anything with Pepe, and he could mutate uncontrollably at lightning speed. Okay, this is where our symphony takes a really, really dark turn. The happy music stops, the drums start rolling. Our simple little frog is about to be turned into a weapon. This is the march to the scaffold. So what happened? Well, ironically, Pepe just got too popular. By 2014, celebrities like Katy Perry were using him. And for the internet subcultures on 4chan, this was an invasion by what they called normies. So they decided to reclaim him. How? By making Pepe so toxic, so unbelievably offensive, that no mainstream person would ever want to touch him again. They launched a full-on campaign to flood the internet with the most hateful versions of Pepe imaginable. And this new, weaponized version of Pepe was a perfect match for the rising alt-right movement in the run-up to the 2016 U.S. election. They scooped him right up. The connection became undeniable when Donald Trump himself retweeted a Pepe version of himself, and his son shared that Deplorables movie poster with Pepe's face right there on it. So for these online groups, Trump's victory felt like a triumph of what they called meme magic. It was this wild idea that their chaotic internet culture had actually broken through into the real world and influenced a massive political event. The co-option was just complete. It was so notorious that the Anti-Defamation League officially designated Pepe the Frog a hate symbol. The chill frog from our first movement was now, at least in the Western world, officially toxic. But, and this is the crazy part, while that storm was hitting its absolute peak in one part of the world, our symphony introduces a completely different tune from the other side of the planet. Remember that cyclone? It's about to reverse its spin. See, unbeknownst to most people in the West, Pepe was already a huge deal in China. He was a popular type of digital sticker called a biaoqing. He had this whole other life over there, completely separate from American politics. He was just the funny, sad frog you sent to your friends when you were complaining about work. And that set the stage for his incredible rebirth in 2019. During the massive pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, young demonstrators turned to this familiar frog they already knew. For them, he became a powerful symbol of their struggle, their sadness, and their incredible defiance. And they adapted him endlessly, turning him into a protester in a hard hat, a medic, a journalist. This perfectly mirrored the movement's own fluid, leaderless philosophy, which was famously summed up by Hong Kong's own Bruce Lee: be water. So let's get to the finale. How do all these conflicting themes come crashing together? What does this one frog's journey really tell us about the bizarre digital world we all share? So how can Pepe contain these two opposite meanings? Well, it's because he's what some people call an empty signifier. Sounds fancy, but it just means the symbol itself is a blank slate. Pepe the Frog has no inherent political meaning. He's an empty vessel. And that means anyone, from extremists to pro-democracy activists, can come along and fill that vessel with their own ideas. And that brings us right back to Bruce Lee's famous quote. One protester said it perfectly captures Pepe's power. He is fluid, he takes many shapes, and you can't easily capture or control him. In a way, that makes him the perfect symbol for our messy, decentralized, chaotic internet. In the end, this strange symphony isn't really just about a frog. It's a story about the internet itself. It's a mirror held up to our global culture, showing us a contested space where symbols are weapons and meanings are always up for grabs. Pepe's story is a perfect storm of our times, and it really leaves you wondering, what will the next digital storm look like, and what are we going to see in its reflection?